right, the show is Africa Daily on Africa Global Radio, and I am Barry Musah. You are welcome. It's Monday, the 26th of April, 2021, and it is a day that we mark, celebrate, observe World Intellectual Property Day. A day that has been set aside by the United Nations to raise awareness on how patents, copyrights, trademarks, and designs impacts on daily life, and to celebrate creativity and contribution made by creators and innovators to the development of our societies across the globe. The thing is, after all the creation, the innovation, and creativity, and what have you, what is next? You're supposed to do something. What is that? Are you just going to go out there and start producing and someone else sees it and start reproducing whatever you've produced? Because that's where the dialogue steps in. Because you would need to start asking questions, because you would ask questions like, how did you get this? This is my idea. This is what. To avoid some of these things, we would be speaking to, as I said, Mr. Zakaria Tanko Musah, a lawyer and a lecturer at the Ghana Institute of Journalism, to help us understand, the legal implications of some of these things right here on the Africa Lady Show. Right after that, we will be coming back to the studio and, of course, speaking to our colleagues, my colleagues, Epifania, Hafiz, who's just joined us, and Mame, so we can also have our own take on intellectual property there. Because you have an idea right there. You'd be surprised when you find such an idea outside and someone's already making money out of it. You start asking questions. How did you get this? But yeah, Mr. Tanko is live with us here on the Africa Daily Show. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Africa Daily Show.
Thank you very much, my brother. I hope
Y-
you're doing well.
I am doing well by His grace, and thank you for making time with us. Right, so today we're marking World Intellectual Property Day. I mean, creativity, innovation, and all of that to, of course, contribute to development. But the question here is, what is next after you have come up with this idea, done this, done that, and all of that? One would want to find out, what do I need to do, or what I'm not supposed to do, and everything. But before we get to that, briefly, what is intellectual property?
Well, thank you very much. As you said, today is Intellectual Property Day. And to put it in a layman's perspective so everybody can understand without necessarily having to have any legal background,
Right.
you have to look at two keywords: intellectual,
Mm.
right? When we say something is somebody is an intellectual,
Mm.
what does that mean? And when we say property, what does that mean? You understand? So
Right.
you have to look at it within the context of when something belongs to you, when you have a property.
Mm.
What do you do with the property? What is the recognition that is given to that property by law?
Okay.
So intellectual property basically seeks to it refers to the creation of the minds, as you said in your intro,
Right.
such as inventions,
Mm.
literary and artistic works,
Right.
designs and symbols, names and images that are used in commerce.
Mm.
And basically what it's trying to do is to recognize, right? To recognize the rights of people who, through their own work, efforts, and time, have created something, is to recognize the fact that they need to benefit from the fruits of their labor in terms of the financial benefit
Right.
from what they have invented and created. So
Mm.
basically, that is what intellectual property is all about. It is to guarantee you, it is to give you that legal protection
Mm.
so that when you, through your own effort, creativity, innovation, you spend your time, when you create something,
Mm.
when you invent something,
Yeah.
nobody else should benefit from the fruits of your labor
Right.
but you.
But
And if
yourself.
anybody is going to benefit from it,
Mm.
the person should have sought permission,
Right.
or you should have actually given permission to that person to benefit in one way or the other.
Great. Seeking permission, to seek permission from one before you go ahead to, enjoy from what the person has, brainstormed upon. It brings to mind the question of legality issues here. Let's talk about the law aspect of it. Is that an intellectual property law? Or is it a standard law we
Yeah.
have, or it differs per jurisdiction? Do we have
Okay.
a standard
So
law, or it differs?
so the thing about intellectual property is that one of the things we need to also understand is that intellectual property is like a broad theme,
Okay.
right? And there are different laws that has to do with intellectual property.
Hmm.
So you have copyright,
Okay.
which is the creator or author of a work is entitled to his copyright and protection, right? And then you have patents,
Hmm.
which is the protection of an invention. And then you have trademarks, which like signs or combinations of signs, including words such as personal names that distinguish you from the others, right? We have that, and then we have industrial designs, which protects the visual design or objects or signs and shapes and patterns and all those things, right? Now, all these things, there are laws in Ghana that recognizes them.
Okay.
So we have the Copyright Act of 2005 at 690. We have the Patents Act 203 at 657. We have the Trademarks Act 204 at 664.
Okay.
And then we have the Industrial Designs Act of 203 at 660. And in addition to all these things, there are other regulations that complement them as well.
Okay.
But the thing about intellectual property is that it is country specific.
Okay.
While there is some level of standardization, because various countries are now signatories to certain international conventions.
Right.
And therefore, by being signatory to certain international conventions, you are actually expected to honor and respect certain aspects of the intellectual property,
right,
irrespective of whether it's in your country or not. But by and large, they are country specific.
Okay.
But I must add that no matter how standardized the laws are because of your involvement in one international convention or the other,
yeah,
you must register and enforce the right in the country that you want to enforce it.
Right.
Do you get the point?
Yeah.
But it is country specific by and large, with very few standardizations here and there.
I mean, there's something that's very common in your submission, and that has to do with registration and all of that. And in Ghana, there are laws that actually protects one's, intellectual property and all of that. But let's talk about the general attitude towards intellectual property registration. Are people really registering?
If you look at
yeah.
If you look at the whole idea, the whole concept of intellectual property, especially in our part of the world, is a little bit abstract to us.
Yeah.
So we don't really value intellectual property that much. As you sit there, you have certain intellectual property that has taken you years to actually build. I have certain intellectual property. Sometimes people will come and engage with you on that level, but they don't even recognize that you are actually providing them. They are actually tasking you in terms of your intellectual property.
Yeah.
You understand? So by and large, the attitude is really not as profound as it is in other established jurisdiction. And it is because of the lack of awareness and the lack of education about what intellectual property is all about. So you have a lot of people who have actually created certain things that qualify under intellectual property, but they don't realize that they can actually get the protection of the law so that when somebody is abusing it, they can protect themselves and all those things. People don't know that. And I think that is why there's supposed to be a very big education about that. And in 2016, January 2016, Ghana launched its first national intellectual property rights policy and strategy. And the whole idea is to ensure that innovators and creators, an environment is created that would allow them to benefit from the fruits of their labor. But I think there is more to be done in terms of the creation of the awareness, because the registration is not as it's supposed to be. Usually, when you see people registering, there will be people who probably have a partner who is from outside and the partner is requesting that, or they're coming from outside, or maybe the person is a little bit more sophisticated or elite.
Yeah.
But ordinary people don't understand these concepts.
Because the thing is, if I don't understand what I have as an intellectual property, how do I look for protection?
Yeah. That's the starting point. You don't even know that what you have is valuable. If you don't value what you have, you really will not protect it. You will just leave it anyhow.
Right.
So but you see, this is where the concept of seeking legal advice and seeking, not necessarily legal advice, but seeking expert advice in whatever you do is very important. In whatever you find yourself in, so long as you are engaging with the outside world, you are not dealing with yourself. Right? But you are engaging with the outside world, then that means there are certain rights and responsibilities that affect you and that would affect others.
Right.
And you need to seek some expert advice specific to that particular area that you are operating from. And that is another problem that we have in our part of the world, where you see people operating in different environments, different fraternities, but they don't really see guidance in terms of that particular area. So they are operating in ignorance.
Loosely.
And that can affect the full impact of what you are supposed to derive from what you're doing. So you're putting in a lot of effort, but you don't realize that most of those efforts are going away because you don't understand the dynamics within that actually
Okay.
that fraternity.
Right. The show is Africa Daily on Africa Global Radio. Today's World Intellectual Property Day, and we're speaking to Mr. Zakaria Tanko Musah, a lawyer and a lecturer at the Ghana Institute of Journalism, trying to help us understand the whole issue surrounding intellectual property and the legal, conversation surrounding it. So, you're a lawyer. How would, if I approach you and lawyer, I have something I want to register. How do I go about it?
Yeah, it all depends. Remember, I gave you the different layers or aspects of intellectual property.
Right, right.
So it all depends on which aspect of the intellectual property you are seeking to register.
Okay.
But by and large, there is some registration element. So,
okay.
For instance, you have to, but all in all those processes would be defined by the very laws that created that particular. So for copyright, for instance, there is a general requirement that you must be a citizen of the country, or somebody who is ordinarily resident in the country, and the work must first be published in the country. But if you don't publish it in the country and you publish it somewhere, and you want to come and register it here, it must have been subsequently published within the last 30 days or something like that.
Right.
But then the work must be submitted for registration to the copyright administrator and all those sort of things, right? But the thing about copyright itself is that with copyright, you don't necessarily have to register it to be recognized as the right owner. Because with copyright, once you have actually created that thing, whether you register it or not, you are the creator of that particular thing. What the registration does for you is to provide you with that evidence in case somebody claims that he or she is the one who owns that. And then when it comes to patenting as well, there is a registration process that you have to go through. You register with the registrar, you file your documents and all those things, and then request for the patent, and then you'll be asked to describe the invention that you are seeking to protect. And sometimes it will involve drawings. You'll be asked to provide the drawings and all those things.
Right.
And then with the industrial designs, it's the same thing. The applicant would have to register for the industrial design, and the same applies for the trademark. So each one has got their own processes and all these things. But by and large, there is an registration element.
Let's also talk about stolen property, because sometimes you may find an idea that you may have preconceived, manifesting elsewhere, and you start asking yourself, how come by this? So, but then help us understand, in what instance can an intellectual property be stolen?
Well, it's just like how your property, when you have your property, you have your car, you have your phone, somebody takes it, he has stolen your property. He has taken something that belongs to you without your permission, and he intends to keep it permanently, or he's benefiting from the fruits of your work.
We're talking about an intangible property.
Yeah, but that's why, remember earlier on, I was telling you that although it's an intangible property, it's still giving the recognition that it is your intellectual property. It is your property.
Absolutely, right.
And therefore, nobody has the right to take it away without your consent. You have to give that person the consent. If for any reason somebody is benefiting economically from your intellectual property, when the person is found out and you actually seek legal redress, the law recognizes that the person is holding whatever he or she has gained in trust for you, and the person would be asked to refund whatever they have made and other compensation or other. But basically, when we say intellectual property has been stolen, it means that the person has taken something that does not belong to them, that belongs to somebody through the person's effort, and the person has registered, and then he's using it for his own benefit without the person's consent or authority.
Great. As a lawyer, what advice would you give to someone seeking to protect their intellectual property? Briefly.
Well, granting patent registrations and trademarks, for instance, are generally based on first to file or first to invent, depending on the country. So because it is first to file or first to invent basis, the most important thing I would always say to people is that it is always important that you seek advice and guidance from an expert, and make sure you follow the right steps to protect yourself before even introducing the intellectual property into any system or any country or any jurisdiction. Because if you fail, or for one reason or the other, because you don't want to spend money to get legal or expert advice, you refuse to do the right thing, you may have your intellectual property being annexed to your anger with little or no legal remedy to you. as you said earlier on, you
Yeah.
see somebody enjoying the fruits of your labor
Yep.
and you can't do anything about it because you have no evidence to show that,
Okay.
as a matter of fact, I am the creator
Yeah.
of this thing that the person is benefiting from. And
S-
what is more painful
mm,
than you sitting back and seeing your efforts and labor
I know, right?
being enjoyed by
By
somebody
someone
else?
else. Okay, so
That's
yeah,
painful.
Mr. Zakaria, before I let you go, I have my colleague here. He has a really quick question to ask. Yeah, Hafiz, go.
Yes, Mr. Zakaria, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, what did you say your name is? Hafiz.
Yes, my name is Hafiz, and thank you very much for joining us.
No problem, Hafiz.
Yes,
Welcome.
my question is simple actually. I want to know if there are instances where the provisions of an intellectual property can be waived.
Can be what?
Can be waived. So, more like, for
Yes. So
instance,
so
yeah,
so for instance, you when you are employed, right?
yeah,
And in the course of your employment, you create a lot of intellectual property, right?
mm-hmm.
But when it is done in the course of employment, your employer is the one who owns that intellectual property. And
That's
there are also
interesting.
instances, for instance, where you create the intellectual property, but you need somebody to support you to be able to publicize it or bring it into the market. So
Okay.
either you would actually sell your rights to somebody else, or you share those rights to those people.
Mm.
For instance, when you look at copyright, for instance, there are a number of things that we do as academics, students, right? Even radio stations, right? You play people's music and all those things. Those are all intellectual properties and all those things. But when you are using it for private use or for educational purposes, it is implied that the owner of the intellectual property has waived those rights and all those things. But the waiver is very limited sometimes. It has to be within reasonable limit and proportionately. Even if the person has waived those intellectual property rights, when you are not using it within the context that it is anticipated, then you can be actually sued for that.
Mm.
Well, that's all we have. Hafiz, is that all? Hafiz, are you okay? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Zakaria Tanko Musah, thank you very much for joining us on the Africa Daily Show, and we
Thank you
hope
for having me, my
yeah, we
brother.
hope to speak again in the future. All
Not a
right.
problem.
That was Mr. Zakaria Tanko Musah, a lawyer and a lecturer at the Ghana Institute of Journalism, engaging with us and of course sharing his knowledge on safeguarding your intellectual property. And yeah, don't be surprised one day you see it out there, you start asking questions because he says you need to seek for legal advice. I mean, experts, people who can really tell you where to go to and what you need to do. On this note, I will engage my colleagues in the studio so we can have our own take and then we can call it a day on the discussion zone for today. In the meantime, you can also join us with your thoughts, comments, and contributions through our WhatsApp platform +233 20706468 or on Facebook, Africa Global Radio. Or tweet at us on Twitter. The handle is AF Global Radio. When tweeting, use the hashtag the Africa Daily Show. This is the Africa Daily Show on Africa Global Radio, and I am Barry Musa. Let me start with Hafiz, who just asked his waiver question. You were surprised, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yes. For some reason, we couldn't go in. He couldn't go into detail due
Yeah.
to time.
But
But
at least it was a bit clear.
yes, yes, it
Mm.
was very clear. I asked
Right.
that question because of one reason, and it's because of what's going on, especially these days. We are talking about COVID and what's going on with the patents between the United States and the EU and the rest of the world, and what
Mm-hmm.
they are actually doing when it comes to vaccine production.
Yeah.
We've seen this whole war of words that is going on,
Mm.
and for me, it's good. It's a good thing that we are actually even talking about intellectual property because that is what is actually happening.
Yeah.
What the battle is all about. And so for me,
Who's
that
a
was
pioneer of a certain idea?
not the pioneer, but
Mm.
the whole idea of whether or not we should put money ahead of human lives,
Okay.
and that is what is going on. In terms of the vaccine production conversation and
Yeah.
and the rest of the world. And
Right.
for me, I wanted clarity on that because there's this whole technicality going on about the same issue. But it's a good thing he cleared up the whole confusion about intellectual property and whatnot.
Mm.
But like I said, the part of the conversation for me that especially with patents
Mm.
is because of the whole conversation surrounding COVID.
Right.
Because you realize that look, there's just a few countries out there that are for some reason dictating what the rest of the world should have or should be able
Mm.
to, and they are
Yeah.
doing that using intellectual property rights, using patents, for instance, as a cover to hide this reprehensible behavior.
Yeah.
Now, why do I say this? If you take the COVID vaccine, for instance, in the production of it, you have the rich countries that constitute about 17% of the global population that have entered into all kinds of manufacturing agreements with pharmaceutical companies, just so they can have 60% of vaccines
Control.
annually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not just that, now they've also gone ahead to sign all these agreements, aka patents, aka whatever, just so these pharmaceutical companies won't be able to share vaccine production technologies with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the patents. So what it does is that it limits production
Yeah.
and pushes up price.
Mm.
Now, I know a lot of people say, but there's COVAX, or whatever.
Yeah, the COVAX scheme
But
and thing, huh?
If you look at what COVAX does, COVAX, by the end of the year, is supposed to be supplying about 2.3 billion doses.
And to a certain population in a country.
And you see, that's not even enough. That's just
Absolutely,
1/5 of the population, the
Yeah.
targeted population.
Yeah.
That is not enough.
That's not enough. Yeah.
So what happens is that because of this whole issue surrounding intellectual property debate, you have people, companies, and facilities that can manufacture vaccines that are seated and can't do anything because, well, they don't have the monies to purchase the licenses. So that is the situation we have now. Yes, because some huge companies have decided to sign certain agreements, and because of the money is involved, and because of this whole issue, you had some countries like South Africa and India, petition the World Trade Organization, and
World
I
Health
think
Organization or trade.
actually,
Okay.
WTO,
Yeah.
and I think they have what they call the trade-related intellectual properties,
Okay.
the TRIPS, where it is. That was where my waiver question actually came from. To try
Right.
to where they can waive some of the provisions in terms of an emergency.
So they can also get a
Yes,
place
so that
in
you can
there.
have countries also produce their own vaccines to be able to combat this. Because what is happening is that if all these countries are not able to access it, what it means is that the vaccine, the virus will continue to mutate.
Yeah.
And when it mutates, even the existing ones at some point won't be able to fight it off. That's the situation. And we saw a glimpse of it in South Africa, where the variant, after they acquired AstraZeneca, they had
it
to
didn't
go back.
work. Yeah. Now they had to
For
go
Johnson and
for
Johnson.
Johnson & Johnson. Yeah.
And with all these things happening, you have some companies, because of intellectual property rights or whatever, they say that they're not going to release the vaccine production technology. And they've given all kinds of reasons that it gives them market incentive for production. And also, some of these countries don't need 3 to 5 years
What is
to be able
important
to
to them?
manufacture.
That's what is important. Is it the money or the lives of the people?
And it's very clear, it's the money.
It is absolutely.
Because, and you see, I think they've had even a lot of money for to be able to. So I don't even know why it is still ongoing. Because look, if you look at what's going on, BioNTech, the German company that is responsible for Pfizer,
Yeah.
yes, got €500 million euros for what they are doing. AstraZeneca got €1.5 billion, and for Moderna, the one in the USA, they got more than €2 billion. And if you are talking of the manufacturer, you have India.
Yeah,
Brazil.
the Serum Institute
Yes.
and all of that.
And with India, I think 60% of the vaccines come from India. So, so
yeah.
we are seeing an elite group or a certain group that is
Dominating, yeah.
controlling the manufacture of some of these things under the guise of patents, which I think is unfortunate. And the question is simple: where is our humanity in all of this? Yeah.
Well, where is our humanity? I mean, some time back I heard about this. I was just listening to this news item. The European countries are, holding the vaccine. They don't want to let it out, and there's this rumor about it being held somewhere, and this and all of these warehouses and what have you. The thing is, it was produced to save the world, not just a particular group of people. But then again, very good question right there posed by my colleague Hafiz. Let me get to Epi so we can let me also take her own bit on intellectual property day. Epi,
Barry.
what have you registered so far? Yeah, I mean, you're the one. You're the creative.
I only registered my business, that's all.
You've registered your business,
Yeah.
but not the idea of da-da-da.
No, I think when he made mention, I was thinking, do I need to actually...
Started
I need to
dawning
be
on you,
register some of my ideas, yes.
Yeah, before you
Instead of
realize,
just...
start reproducing them and...
You see them, so
Yeah.
like, I didn't even make dream. I thought of this. I
oh, you want to answer why yet? Oh, yeah.
that's really true. But I think he's actually spoken a lot, and the fact that for me, I want to look at the education aspect of it now. How many people are aware of this? How many people actually do know it? How how have we made the public familiar with the
Yeah.
whole intellectual property thing? Because
Mm.
somebody hears intellectual property and they're thinking, oh, this one is for the big guys, it's for the big companies, the big guns, those doing the
Mm.
big things
Yeah.
and manufacturing. But then, I mean, you wouldn't know whether
Mm.
whether yours has to be copyright,
Yeah.
whether it's a patent. You just don't know what it is until you actually go find out. And I want to urge that I like the fact that, I mean, in 2016, Ghana has brought up the law and is actually working on educating people. But I believe more should be done. We should make him,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to say user friendly, but
Mm.
more like public friendly.
Okay.
It shouldn't look like a foreign or a strange concept.
Mm.
Yes, intellectual property. There are people who are having great ideas, but some of them may not be to the point where they would know about this or have access to people that can lead them to register these ideas
Mm.
that can actually bring them money. So, what are we doing to fill that gap?
Okay.
It's more like leaving, it's like a pit, leaving it open for the rich to fill, or for those who have knowledge about it to actually take hands on it and then work with it, and leave those who actually have brought about the ideas. If there could be public education, this thing, community outreaches and everything,
Mm.
they could actually organize some for these business people and people who are coming up with different things that they are doing on their own, so they could get them to register, and gradually we'll be able to get somewhere.
Mm. I think it's all about education, as he mentioned, and speaking to the right people, because it's not just about knowing about it, but getting the sense of getting the direction to be able to lead you to do the right thing. Let me speak to Mame, so I could get her take on this one as well. So, Mame, what have you registered? Anything? Your dance moves is also an intellectual property. I don't know.
No, I mean the dance moves I dance are moves everybody
Oh
dances.
no, there's this one you do like you're riding a motorcycle. How do you do that? Or you're twisting an ear, the ears of a rabbit or
Oh,
something.
I see Amy doing one of my moves.
Aha, he has stolen it. You'll be sued soon, yes?
But I wanted to ask
Yeah.
this question. It's too bad I wasn't here to ask. I wanted to ask that.
Mm,
You see, sometimes some musicians
okay.
sample the songs of other musicians,
Yeah.
and then they just give credits. Is
Some
that
don't,
enough?
some don't even give credit.
Yeah, some don't even give
Mm,
credits, but
mm.
I'm talking about those who give credits. Is
Yeah.
that enough?
Mm,
Because I'm asking this based on one of the artists here in our base Ghana
right.
sampled the song of another
Yeah.
artist,
Yeah. Mm.
and then he gave him credit,
Okay.
but I think it didn't sit well with the other artist whose song was sampled. So
Mm.
I don't know what he did.
Did he sue him?
I don't think he sued him, but YouTube took the video off.
Off. Yeah. Yeah. Of course. You need to ask for permission before you do
So I wanted to.
stuff like
So
that.
I wish I could have asked if just giving credit was enough,
But then I
or
think
if more needed to be
But he made
done.
mention of the fact that you need to, seek for permission, if it's granted, right? You need to seek for permission because if I seek for your permission and then you grant me, like, okay, that's fine. He made mention of that. I remember he mentioned something like that. I don't know if it's a bit related to
Okay.
your question
Yeah.
and all.
Okay. Okay.
Mm,
Cool. And
mm.
then I also wanted to add that, in as much as there needs to be public education done,
Yeah.
I feel like some people know and just turn a blind
Turn a
eye
blind
to
eye, yeah?
it,
Mm.
because we have seen people sample people's songs day in day out,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like they see it. Sometimes they come, they talk about it,
Mm.
but then no legal action is
I think something
taken.
of that sort happened in our base Ghana. Marco Creco, now the new minister designate for deputy,
Yeah.
and and Sarkodie. You remember he did a Kokoko, one of the songs of the legendary high life musician Dasibre Kok.
Yeah.
He sampled it, and that song was produced by Marco Creco, and he actually went he was really mad about it.
He was mad,
You heard about
but
that?
did he take legal action?
Well, I didn't follow.
So I think
Yeah.
that is the
Mhm.
reason why some of the
Yeah.
people here who
So it's
even
just about
know
ranting.
about
You just come out and
it
rant about it and
don't
talk about
don't
yeah.
actually
See the
do
need.
it to
Yeah.
do it. Because
Mm.
if it was in the US, we see people take people to
Oh
court
yeah.
day
Oh
in, day
yes.
out, just because they even took a word
I
out of their
remember.
name.
I remember this guy of blessed memory, Marvin Gaye, "Sexual Healing,"
Okay.
classic. I mean, all-time hits. I think someone actually did something, tapped something out. I don't know if it's even. I think even if it's just a key, key, yeah, of
It's
that
just
rhythm.
it's just a little tone
I think
in
that the
a song.
family, the Marvin Gaye's family, sued that person. I think $6 million or more.
I mean,
Yeah, but that's how im- that's how important and like wow.
and then these celebs are people young people look up to.
Yep.
So then it's like,
If you don't,
oh, he stole the song of this one,
and
or
nobody
he
did
took,
any,
and
yeah, no,
nobody did anything.
yeah,
So maybe I could take
yeah.
the idea of someone else,
Mm,
or I could copy something, or I could do that,
mm.
and then nobody will do
But you
anything
can
to
land
me.
yourself into
So
trouble
I
sometime.
believe it's about people in the high places
Okay.
doing the right thing, because
Mm.
all of these people are role models to other
Oh
people.
yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
I believe those who are on the other side,
Mm-hmm.
it's like if somebody takes something of yours,
Right.
an intellectual property,
Mm.
and you don't like it,
Mm.
or they didn't seek permission from you,
Okay.
instead of just coming out to rant, take legal action. Let us see that there are consequences into taking the work of someone
Mm.
or using the idea of somebody
Yeah.
without talking to them first.
Right. Thank you, Mami, for sharing. And today is World Intellectual Property Day, the 26th of April, 2021. Wherever you are, but you can still join us on our WhatsApp platform, +23320706468, or on Facebook, Africa Global Radio. The hashtag is the Africa Daily Show on Twitter. When tweeting, the handle is AF Global Radio.